Hello, Earthlings and Spacelings. Today I did something a little different from usual. Rather than write scripts about my own library books, I went outside. More specifically, I went to the Twin Cities and visited as many bookstores as I could in a single afternoon. For those who aren't familiar with the American Midwest, the name Twin Cities refers to Minneapolis and St. Paul, Minnesota. The Mississippi River runs through the area, so it's an old river town with gorgeous houses and cathedrals, and is home to Macalester College. It also has a plethora of bookstores. Here is the list I made after doing a little looking around on Google Maps that morning, and here is the little map I drew to figure out where I should actually go. A few outliers like Paperbacks Plus and James and Mary Laurie Bookseller were too far away to justify, given I had just 5 hours. And I can visit Half Price Books or Barnes & Noble anytime. This was my golden opportunity to drive around all by myself filming bookshelves, as well as doing a little shopping. All the websites and addresses for these bookshops are in the description box below. I will also link some of the bookstores I missed and hope to visit in the future if this video does well. Comment the names of stores you'd like a POV from. The first place I went was Uncle Hugo's science fiction bookstore. Or rather, that was the first on my list. I actually spotted another place, Moon Palace Books, and took a quick peek inside. It was a really pretty space that reminded me of places I saw in San Francisco, with lots of adorable Jellycat brand plushies. You can order from them, go inside wearing a mask, or stop by their pickup window. Totally cute. Uncle Hugo's was just a block away, so I hurried over. Actually, this building was a combination of Uncle Hugo's, which has specialized in science fiction since 1974 and claims to be the oldest independent sci-fi bookstore in America, and Uncle Edgar's, which claims to be the biggest mystery bookstore in the Twin Cities since 1980. December 1st was also Uncle Edgar's 43rd anniversary, so the 10% off sale is good through December 7th. You can visit the store, order online, or visit their crowdfunding link on their website. I was tempted to spend the whole afternoon here, but what's a book crawl without crawling across the city? Watch until the end to see what I bought here. P.S. Echo is a very good girl. Yes, she is. Next, I visited the Book House in Dinkytown, which was recommended to me by Tom Mason of the Blue Buccaneers. His YouTube channel is linked below. Dinkytown is a University of Minnesota neighborhood, and the book house is located upstairs in the Dinkytown Mall, which looks like a normal storefront and apartment building from the front. I really love places like this, where the walls are made of shelves. It's fun to wander through the maze until you find your genre, and maybe stumble across a comfy chair. There was a certain punk flavor to the place as well, since the stairwell was covered in cutouts and stickers. Originally opened in 1976, it has been in this location since 2014. I really liked their sci-fi selection since they had a whole wall of awesome, weird paperbacks. Again, I could have stayed here a long time, but my meter was running out. I made my way to Midway Used and Rare Books, which is the first store I've covered here that is actually technically in St. Paul. The first few were in Minneapolis. Anyway, this place was great. I was shocked by how big it was, and I only really explored half of it before zipping along to the next store. There's a huge comic book section, then big shelves along the wall in the back corner with sci-fi stuff. Through a doorway is the rest of the place, but I got distracted by the signs pointing to the basement, where absolutely everything is $2.50 in order to clear inventory. There were a lot of interesting things on the discount sci-fi shelf. Another store I would like to return to. After Midway, I made several quick stops. First, I popped into Black Garnet Books, which was very modern and pretty in a similar vein as Moon Palace Books. I didn't stay long because I was on the lookout for used sci-fi paperbacks, but I want to stress that this was a really nice place that is dedicated to making Black and diverse voices heard in the wake of George Floyd's murder in 2020 and the subsequent call for action in Minnesota. Right across the street from Macalester College are two bookstores nestled into adorable shopping strips. One is Against the Current, which seems to focus on academic works. I only stayed a minute since I was running out of time. A block and a half away is a bookstore called Next Chapter Booksellers, though it can still pop up on Google Maps as Common Good Books. It changed names in 2019, but has been around since 2006. If I was to look up bookshop in the dictionary, this is the picture I would expect to see next to it. Spacious, beautiful, selection, little notes from the staff, a pretty Christmas display. Now I was really running out of time. Since Red Balloon Books is in an area I go frequently, I skipped it and moved on to the next store on my list, Subtext Books. Unfortunately, it's located in downtown St. Paul, and it was Saturday, so I drove by, gave up on parking, and moved on. I headed for a greener read since it was about to close. However, that store is in some sort of shared artist space on Minnehaha Avenue, so again, I kept driving. My final stop was Other Skies Weird Fiction. While Uncle Hugo's had the selection of my dreams, this was the shop of my dreams. There were coffin display cases, dark wood shelves of hardbacks, cool knickknacks, and Blade Runner playing on the TV. I particularly appreciated the more affordable DAW paperbacks shelf in the corner, since most of what I saw ranged from $50 to $300, with the most expensive I spotted being a copy of After Worlds Collide for $3,000. I spoke to the owner and he confirmed that he mostly focuses on hardback sales online, but that he also has a horror partner in Japan that helps him procure other oddities. Well, those are the stores I visited in a single afternoon. I apologize to anyone who's not into sci-fi. I hope this gives you some ideas for other genre shopping as well. So, what did I buy? Want to see my St. Paul book crawl haul? To start with, I bought 2 books at Uncle Hugo's, 2 sequels to C.J. Cherry's The Pride of Shanur. All the books were priced really well here. At the book house in Dinkytown, I picked out a pyramid science fiction paperback by Arthur Byron Cover called The Sound of Winter. The back description indicates that the story itself might feature a magical disabled person, which could be problematic, but sometimes I buy books for the art, not the plot. While at Midway Books, I found a couple paperbacks to buy, which are all half price according to the sign. I bought Cat House by Dean Ing, kinda reminds me of the Shanur books I bought about an hour earlier. I also picked up The Metal Monsters, since it looked like a schlocky mess. Was she Witch Woman, or just the Metal Emperor's slave girl? And a book called Tweedleyoop, which was in the basement. Thought it could be featured in a future children's episode of the podcast. And finally, I bought 4 books at Other Skies Weird Fiction. Somehow I procured yet another C.J. Cherry novel, this one called Hunter of Worlds. I grabbed The Right Hand of Dextra by David J. Lake, since I recognized it from Barlow's Guide to Extraterrestrials. Then a Thomas Burnett Swan called The Minikins of Yam. His books have such great covers. And finally, Brian M. Stableford's The Realms of Tartarus, since I love Ron Wolotsky's artwork. What did you think of each bookstore? Is there one you wish I'd spent more time in? Perhaps I should spend a couple of hours in each one next time, flipping through books and showing what they carry in more detail. I'd especially love to spend more time highlighting the stores owned by minorities, like Black Garnet and Birch Bark, since this trip I only thought to focus on my usual genres without thinking outside the box. Anyway, that's it for today. Until next time, bye-bye, Earthlings.